Greetings. This is Mr. Glenn with ACT Prep Chicago coming to you again um, with another recording, a review of the PACT um, 2025 October. I am with ACT Prep Chicago. Um, Contact information is here if you're interested in reaching out to us for one-on-one tutoring to further enhance your knowledge of the ACT and prepare for the ACT. You can reach out to us at the email address actprepchicago@yahoo.com, or you can call us at 773-474-2540. And without further ado, let's move now to our exam that we're going to review. And this is going to be just for the English section. All right, let's start with number one. I always tell students, let's look at what's being tested. Um, And I usually start with the title, A Saturday with Sea Turtles. It's going to help us with some of the later questions when they ask about the passage overall, which tend to be like towards the end. This one doesn't have a passage overall question. So it's an essay by maintaining the focus on the turtle. Let's see if this passage has one. No, no. But some of these other questions, like adding phrases, if it works, this is about the passage overall. The writer's goal was to introduce readers to Louisiana Creole cooking and special dishes with the essay successfully accomplished that goal. A passage like this one, a question like this, it's good to read the title and the um the underlying part. I'm sorry, the title and to work as you read. All right. If you want more practice with that or more instruction with that, you can feel free to reach out to us regarding one-on-one tutoring. All right. It's Saturday with sea turtles. Hawaii's green. So first I'll look at what's being tested. Usually I read this sentence. Hawaii's green sea turtle has been classified as an endangered species for over 25 years. When you look at that, and then you look at what's being tested, it has all the same words. Answer choices have all the same words, but different punctuation marks. So it's testing punctuation. So you got to know your punctuation rules. I typically would start with the colon because it has the least amount of rules. Commas has the most amount of rules of any punctuation mark because so many different uses for commas. Colons only have so many rules. Rule for colon is the left side has to be a sentence. Hawaii's green sea turtle has been classified as an endangered species. Right. Hawaii's green sea turtle has been classified. I guess that could be a sentence. But when you read the whole thing, it has been classified as an endangered species. That goes together. Um, so that colon wouldn't go there because colon is like a stop. Remember, punctuation overall is to break things into part. When you're shifting your thought, or you're changing, or you pause, or you're stopping. And as I read the sentence, you're not doing any of that. Hawaii's green sea turtle has been classified as an endangered species for over 25. Just a simple sentence. There is no need for any pause at all. So the answer just is choice B, no punctuation at all. Continue along. Signs around the Mauna Lani Lagoon warn tourists to keep their distance from the humped creatures that look like gray-green boulders along the shoreline. I usually wait to the period. I look at my different choices. I see this is verbs. Warns is warning, has warning, it's testing verbs. I look at the difference between F and G, warn versus warns. That's subject verb agreement. Verb with an S, verb without an S. I identify the subjects. Who will warn tourists to keep their distance? It would be signs. You got a prepositional phrase around the Mauna Lagoon. That's not going to be where your subject is. The subject is signs. If the subject is plural, the verb should not have an S. Warn would be right. Signs warn tourists. I really read the preposition phrase. Signs warn tourists. That's correct. Answer choice is F. Okay. And if you look at the other answer choices, warns is warning, has warned. They are all verbs that match singular subjects, which would trick somebody who would think that lagoon would be the subject because it's the noun right before the verb, but lagoon is not the subject. So the answer choice is F. Um, my friends and me, however, ignore the signs. Let me finish the sentence. Ignore the signs, wade into the water, and struggling to flip a 150-pound turtle onto his back in the center of an oversized inner tube. So it's two in one, uh, two underline or two questions in one sentence. So sometimes you have to do the second one first. And the first one, in this case, you don't. I kind of picked up with the second one as I was reading that it was because it was listing. I could see that my friends, however, ignore the sign. It's the first item in the list. Wade into the water, and it should be struggle for. This is verb parallelism, right? Because ignore, wade, and struggle. All verbs should be in the same form because you're listing in it, and they're giving this the form of the list is verb, and then what? Ignore, then object. What is ignore? Wade and what? Wade into the water. Then it should be struggle. What? Struggle to flip the turn its back. So it should be J. Before we go back to three, because I just saw four right away, and I saw three kind of right away too. My friends in me or I. Me versus I is object versus subject pronouns. Me is an object pronoun. I is a subject pronoun, given where it's located at the beginning of the sentence, and it's followed by however, which should be in what non-restrictive clause with two commas, because it should be my friends in blank, me or I. However, ignore the signs. However, it's like a side note, non-restrictive clause. So really do without that. But the I versus me, it should be I because it should be a subject pronoun. Why? Because if you take this out, it's followed by the verb. And you take off another trick is you take off friends and you just say my friends and you take that off and you just say, would you say I ignore the signs or me ignore the signs? You would say I ignore the signs. That's more confirmation that it should be I, but it's a subject pronoun and it's in the subject position. Therefore, it should be I, not me. The next question is, do I put a comma before and after, however, or just one after, however? I told you before, however, is a non-restrictive clause in this case, a side note. So it should be a comma before and after because the however kind of fits. It's kind of like a side note. It just doesn't fit there, right? My friends and I, however, ignore the signs. It should be my friends and I ignore the signs, wait until the water and struggle. You can say it without it. Therefore, the correct answer is B. I subject pronoun, comma, however, comma, the two commas are non-restrictive clauses, which are things that can be removed from a sentence, like parentheses or two dashes. Some students usually skip this. I keep reading because, like I said before, for context, just in case I get a question about the overall passage or should a sentence fit, and now we'll get some context. We aren't being intentionally cruel, nor are we breaking the law. We are spending another sunny Hawaiian Saturday volunteering for a government-sponsored sea turtle research project. We float our latest turtle ashore. Flippers flapping and beak snapping, the turtle resists as we hoist it onto the examination table that we've set up beneath an awning on the beach. It is my turn to enact the exam. And then it says choices act out, perform, or operate. You're just looking usually for the simple word uh, that that um, kind of fits the context, but also says exactly, you want to be literal, not figurative in this case. So like you say, it's my turn to act out the exam. Like you could understand what that means, but that's more figurative language because you're not really acting out the exam, you're actually doing the exam. Or in this case, the simple word would be C, is my turn to perform the exam, enact the exam just doesn't fit the context. Operate the exam is not what we're trying to say, right? Enact is the closest choice, but perform is better because it says exactly what you'll be performing an exam on the turtle. Um, enact, it might be you're acting out an exam, but you're not really doing that. So the context for enact just doesn't fit as well. Let me just check that just to be sure. I always like to double check some of these. Um, but yeah, it's you're looking for something, and this is what a lot of students do. They try to go into they try to look for very difficult, and that's not what the test is looking for. The ACT English is not really looking for difficult and complex language. They think, oh, because the test is hard, I should be looking choosing the hard or difficult answer. It's not really doing that. It's usually wanting the simple and easy, which you typically would see written, which would be performing the exam. That's correct. I just checked it. As I weigh the turtle and measure its carapace, I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's Shell, another volunteer, Kiko, given, and then watches as I record the data. Given that all the choices are true, which one would most effectively provide a transition into the next sentence? What is the next sentence about? Tourists always seem delighted by the opportunity to closely observe a turtle. So this says Kiko watches as I record the data, but then this goes into tourists always seem delighted by the opportunity to closely observe the turtle, but it says Kiko was a volunteer. I don't know if Kiko was a tourist. So let's see if we could connect more to tourists watching. So as I weigh the turtle and measure skirt space, another line, Kiko, what does Kiko do? Explains the project to people who have gathered nearby. That sounds about right because tourists would be delighted by the opportunity to observe a turtle, and Kiko would need to be explaining it to tourists who are just observation, who are just making an observation. With the Hunters, Turtle Project, no, stands gonna be right. G would fit better with the idea of tourists watching. So someone would be explaining as people all gathered around watching. It would be G, number six. Number seven, Kiko tells the tourists that the turtle has likely made a remarkable migration from breeding grounds in shoals located over 400 miles away. Which of the following alternatives to the online portal would not, here we go, which would not work. So all of these work except one. Kiko tells the truth that this turtle has totally, that doesn't sound right. Totally made a remarkable. You could say like you could say most likely, probably, presumably, not totally, because you're trying to say it's probable, but it's not totally. That's really what you're trying to say. You're saying, I don't know for sure, but this is what I'm guessing, and it's probably right, but I don't know 100% sure. So when you say totally, you kind of make it seem like you're 100% sure, but I don't even think you would say it has totally made a right? Because that would change the meaning. Like, what would totally versus partially? Kiko tells the tourist that this turtle has partially made it. You know what I mean? That just doesn't fit the context as well. So seven is not correct. I'm sorry, A is not correct. Um, the box here, that means if the writer were to delete the phrase in shoals located near 400 miles away, and that means the sentence would just read, Kiko tells the tourist that this turtle has likely made a remarkable migration from breeding grounds. And we just left the part in shows located over 400 miles away. What would the sentence lose? So what is this doing? What is this saying? This part in shows located over 400 miles away? Is this background information about why the tourists chose the shows? No, it's not telling us why they chose them. Um, Important geographical data for tourists who are interested? No, we don't know if that's important. A generalization about the size that we don't know. That's not the size, that's more about distance. A specific detail that helps clarify why the migration will be remarkable. That's exactly what it is, because over 400 miles away is a long distance. So that's a remarkable migration. If it came that far, like how did a turtle get that far? And they said remarkable migration, 400 miles away gives a detail that supports the remarkable migration. The correct answer is J. I opened the turtle's mouth so I can document what it has been eating, and I wonder if the turtle is hungry. What's being tested here is apostrophe. Do we put an apostrophe to show possession? What word comes after turtle? Mouth. Is mouth a noun that can be owned? Yes, it's the turtle's mouth. And it said the turtle, which means just one turtle. So apostrophe S is correct. It should be a no change. Apostrophe S to show singular possession over the mouth. So I can document what it's been eating, and I wonder if the turtle is hungry. Which choice specifically anticipates the lesson described in that sentence? What's the next lesson described in that sentence? Kiko laughs and says that one of the first lessons a volunteer learns is that green sea turtles have terrible breath. So this should have something to do about its breath, maybe. I wrinkle my nose. There it is. Not peer inside, not look down. I wrinkle my nose. Why? Because the breath is really bad. It smells bad. So that's why you would wrinkle your nose. The answer choice to that one is G. A supervising marine biologist helps me insert a small microchip, a tag, beneath the skin of one flipper. Tagging helps with monitoring the turtle population and gathering information to help the turtles recover from their endangered status. After we pull the heavy turtle back to water, comma, this is testing punctuation. You see all the choices have, but How do I know it's comma? After, the word after means I'm going to start like a fragment. And I have to, usually whenever you say after we do something, you know it's going to be a comma and then your sentence. It follows a fragment, comma, sentence. Like when, blah, 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 although, blah, blah, blah. It's one of those, I think they call them subordinate clauses or subordinate adjectives. I can't remember the exact name for that, but you just get the feel for that. So this should be a comma here. We know it shouldn't be a period or a semicolon because they will require this left side to be a sentence. After we pull the heavy turtle back to the water, that's not a sentence. So we can't use a period, nor can we use a semicolon, nor can we use a period here. The only choice we can use is a comma because period, semicolons require a sentence on the left side and the right. And this one is a fragment on the left up to water. That's a fragment. That's not a full sentence. So we need fragment, comma, sentence. I don fins, list a mask and a snorkel. This is listing things that this person dons. I don, I don fins, a mask, and a snorkel, watching the turtle after its release. This is not good because this almost makes it seem like the snorkel is watching the turtle or the fins, mask, and snorkel are watching the turtle. So it's unclear when you leave the watching like that. Um, and if that watch would be the same, it would make it seem like this list of things is watching the turtle after its release. It's the I that's watching the turtle after its release. Again, that will be watching. The only one that's correct is H. I dine or I wear these things in order to, I wear these things in order to watch the turtles after its release. That makes it clear that it's the I that's watching the turtle, not these objects. Number 13, though shy and quiet on land, these animals are graceful swimmers. Which way sets up the clearest contrast? Contrast means difference with the sentence's later description of the sea turtle swimming. It says they are graceful swimmers. So how do I contrast that? So I would have to say they do something clumsy, right? Opposite of graceful is clumsy. B, sluggish and cumbersome. You see, that's the opposite of graceful. Though sluggish and cumbersome on land, these items are graceful swimming. That would be perfect choice. B is the correct one for 13. Because of and the key word there is contrast, difference. Kicking my fins, I follow the turtle as it beats its flippers like wings and soars through the canyon reach toward the deep water beyond. Kicking my fins, I follow. This is so this is doing two things when you look at this is kicking my fin. This is subject modifier placement. So you have this modifying phrase, kicking my fins, comma. The very next word has to be who or what was kicking the fins so that it's clear that this description is describing the next word. So were wouldn't work and if would work. So it's either F or G. I should be the next thing word because I is the one kicking the fin. So kicking my fins, comma, would it be I follow or I followed the turtle. So that's testing present versus past tense. How did we tell this story about what we were doing? After we pull, this is present. The turtle, I dine, this is present. All of this is present tense. After supervising, this is present, right? Marine biologists helps, this is present, means sort of microchip beneath the skin. Tagging helps with, that's a side note, information. Kiko laughs, all this is present tense. So we should be in present tense. It should be F, kicking my fence, I follow the turtle. Okay, let's look at 15. Given that all the choices, so the answer to 14 is F. Given that all the choices are true, which one most effectively completes the sentence? We want to complete the sentence and the essay by maintaining the focus on the turtle. We want the focus to be on the turtle. So did A do that? I follow the turtle as it beats its flippers like wings and soars through the canyon reach toward the deep water beyond. Yes, this is what the turtle is doing. What about B? I dream of being a marino. This is about the person, not the turtle. C, it swims farther into the ocean. When we both surface, my friends are distant figures on land. This starts focusing on turtle, but it ends up talking about the person who's swimming, the person swimming friend. But we don't want to focus on that. It says we want to what? Effectively by maintaining the focus on the turtle. I am soon left behind. I left for no. This is about the person. This is the narrator. B and D about the narrator. C starts out about the turtle, but then it ends about the narrator's friends. A maintains the whole part is about the turtle. This is what we want. So the answer choice 15 is A. Okay, that is passage one. Let's move on to passage two. Let me see how many passages it is. I may do a two-part video for this, depending on how my voice does. Oh, it's only three passages. We'll see after two passages. I know I'll do at least two, maybe three. All right, passage two, the Great Wall of Los Angeles. Judith Francisca Baca believes a mural can tell a story and that a largeness of it gives its creator an amplified voice. A largeness of what? The mural or the story? See, that's why this is a pronoun, but it's incorrect. When I read it, I read F, almost like a parallelism, right? Judith Francisca Baca believes, what does she believe? She believes a mural can tell a story, and that, what else does she believes? A large mural gives its creator an amplified voice. It maintains the structure. A mural can, a large mural gives. You see how a mural can, a large mural gives, maintains the same structure. So I'm thinking it's probably F, but I can read the other ones. She believes that a mural can tell a story. I know we said it, this doesn't work because it is unclear pronoun reference. What about G? Can tell a story and that to make large, to make, wait, to make large gives its created, to make large what? Now it's missing something. J, and that if the mural is large, gives its, what? Sorry, that, as you read it, it just doesn't flow right. J. Judith Francisca Baca believes a mural can tell a story, and that if the mural is large, gives its creator an amplified voice. If the size of the mural is what they're trying to say, and that if the mural is large, gives it's just awkwardly worded, and we can say it more simply and straightforward with less words, and the test prefers that. So that's why H is correct. You see how that's three words, and then J, one, two, three, four, five, and it's kind of awkward and clumsy. Whereas H maintains the same style of same kind of sentence structure, same style that was used when they said a mural can, a large mural can, blah blah blah. All right. So 16 is H. 17. Um, let's see what's it began in the summer of 1976, comma, Baca led the creation of what is likely the longest mirror in the world, the Great Wall of Los Angeles. This is look like a sentence structure issue. As I read 17, this is a problem because you have two sentences. It began in the summer of 1976 sentence, then he goes, comma. Baca led the creation of what is likely the longest mirror in the world. That's another sentence. And you can't separate two sentences with a comma. So this is wrong. So sometimes you got to think that way too, because um, sometimes what happens, students don't know what's being tested, and it's usually sentences versus fragments. So A is not correct because it violates the rule. You can't have sentence, comma, sentence. What about B? With a beginning in the summer of 1976, comma, Baca led the creation of what is likely the longest mirror in the world. With a beginning, that wouldn't, I think with a beginning in the summer, what with a beginning, what would be what, with a beginning, what are they saying begins? With a beginning. I guess they're just saying time begins, but you can say it more, you can say it with D, and this test prefers shorter, and beginning works. The shorter choice works, and then we probably should have looked at that first. D, the shortest choice. Beginning in the summer of 1976, comma, Baca led the creation was longest was the right. So I guess with the beginning or for it to begin, no, that's just awkward. For it to begin in the summer of 1970. For what to begin? For the time or for the And then if you say for it to begin, the next word would have to be what began, which would be baka. But that's not right. We're not saying baka began. Baka is a person. But if you say beginning in the summer of 1976, you're saying in this at this specific time, right? Just saying if you say beginning of the summer of 1976, you just say at that time, comma, this is she did this. When we say for it to begin, you say, well, what is the it referring to? And the way the sentence is structured, because you have this fragment in the beginning, comma, the very next word have to be what the it you're referring to would be, which would be baka, which would be um you can call it unclear pronoun reference or incorrect pronoun reference, or you can say it's a subject modifier placement agreement issue. In any case, but to simplify it for the average person, 17 is D and go with the shortest. If you're not sure between other choices and you think other ones can work, if the shortest one works, you go with it. In this case, the shortest one, D, does work, we go with it. And we showed you why A is incorrect. Baccalaureate declaration was likely the longest mural in the longest mural in the world, the Great Wall of Los Angeles. The tourist attraction painted on the concrete wall of the Tuhonga Wash, a flood-controlled channel in the San Bernardino Valley, is over 13 feet high and almost a half mile long. So we got two underlying parts in the sentence. Sometimes that can be tricky. Start with the first one. The writer would like to describe the mural in a way that strongly emphasizes the mural's visual energy. So we want to do the visual energy, tourist attraction. It doesn't strongly do visual energy. It says people went to it, but it's not like a lot of visual energy. Noticeable piece of art, vibrant ribbon of colors. That's visual energy. You calling the colors vibrant, right? The other ones are not visual energy as much. So it would be H. This vibrant ribbon of colors painted on the concrete wall of the Tuhan Wash, a flood controlled channel in the. So here, let's recognize this sentence structure as we're doing. This vibrant ribbon of colors, that's your subject. Then it goes comma, it goes side note. Painted on the concrete wall of Tuhan Wash, that's like a side note description of where it was painted. Then it's now we go into another side note of the Tuhonga Wash, a flood control channel in the San Bernardino Valley. These are all those side notes, but really these can really be taken out of the sentences. Sometimes this can help simplify sentences. So what I'll do sometimes if I work on students is I will do something like this, right? I'll block this out because this is like side note. And then because the underlying part comes and it comes right after that. So this tourist attraction is over 13 feet high and almost a half mile long. Do you see how that simplifies the sentence, all that side note? So sometimes it's easier to work with when you do that. So it says, this tourist attraction is over 13 feet high and almost a half mile long. It seems like that work. Oh, it shouldn't be tourist attraction. This vibrant ribbon of colors is over 13 feet high. That still works. When I read B, it's a fragment. That's the problem with B. So this is really testing sentence versus fragment as well. This tourist attraction, sorry, this vibrant ribbon of colors, which has a height of over 13 feet and almost a half a mile long, that's a fragment. That's not a full sentence. With a height that's over, C is also a fragment. This vibrant ribbon of colors over 13 feet high, and that's always a fragment. So B, C, and D, if you read they would be fragments. They wouldn't be complete sentences. So this is 19 is testing sentence versus fragment. Choice A is the only answer choice that provides a full sentence. And really it has to do with the verb, right? C and D don't have a main verb in the sentences. B has, which could be a main verb, but when you put the which, you start in a side note, so it won't be the main verb. But when we have is there, this vibrant of colors is over, that's your full sentence that has your verb. Okay. Again, I'm trying to give you brief descriptions of these. If you wanted more, that's a one-on-one tutor will come in. You have the information, actprepchicago@yahoo.com. You can always reach out, email, and hopefully you do what the algorithm says, comment, like, and subscribe. I forgot to say that at the beginning of the video. All right, let's continue. And the reason you do that is just because as you build subscription, you can, as I provide this information, you don't have to pay me, but I could potentially, get financial incentive or not even incentive compensation for presenting this information. But you wouldn't pay as a viewer. YouTube would pay if you guys comment, like, and subscribe. All right, never mind that. Let's move on. The project has commissioned, the project was commissioned by Los Angeles city officials. The project was commissioned by Los Angeles city officials, uh, comma. Then those wanted well-known local artists to beautify. So the problem with those is that you have two sentences. The project was commissioned by Los Angeles city officials. That's a sentence. Then those would be the city officials wanted well-known local muralists Baca to beautify the channel area. That would also be a sentence. Same with F. If you put they there, that would be two sentences separated by a comma. You can't do that. That's called a comma splice. That's a comma mistake. Excuse me. So it'll either be G or J. Whom versus who. Object whom versus subject who pronoun, right? So which one should you put, the subject pronoun here or the object pronoun? The project was commissioned by these people, and these people, they wanted, so it would be they is a subject pronoun. So you say who wanted, well known, right? So it's in a position that it should be a subject pronoun there. We should put whom, not whom. Whom would be if it were in a position of an object pronoun, and it's not. So it should be who. J. She took this opportunity to bring the people of multi-ethnic Los Angeles together to produce a narrative mural of their stories. Baca imagined the mural on the China wall as a timeline. Baca imagined the mural on a China wall as a timeline. So B and C, it's either B or C. You either can put a comma around this information, or you can do it without. So two commas, that means on the channel wall will be a side note. Back up the mural as a timeline. But I think you need this part. Two things I'm looking at. Number one, typically you do not put prepositional phrases as non-restrictive clauses. So on the channel wall is a prepositional phrase. Typically, prepositional phrases do not go as non-restrictive clauses. That's number one. Number two, when you say imagine the mural, which mural? Right? I know we're talking about a mural, but if you say specifically the mural on the channel wall as a timeline, so it gives specificity of which mural you're referring to. So I think we need it. I'm going to say it's C. Since we need it, we do not put comma before and after, which would be the same as putting parentheses around it. So it's not a non-restrictive clause. It actually is a restrictive clause, which means we need it, which means I'm going to go with C. Let me double check that one just to be sure, though. That's 22. No, they're saying 22 is actually B. They're saying you can take it out. Now, this is unique. Did I do that right? Did I put it right? Let me see. They're saying 20. Oh, I'm at 22. I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong one. 21. Should be looking at 21. Yes, 21 is C. So I was correct. Sorry about that, guys. Yes, it should be C. I thought so. Oh, and then you know the answer for 22. 22 is texting again. It's testing apostrophe, which could be contraction or it could be possession, because people apostrophe S, people in the apostrophe on people, you're talking about possession, right? Because it's not a contraction. You're not saying people is, and that's not how you do it anyway. So people apostrophe S is showing possession. It would proclaim that the historical experiences of California's people, focusing mainly on experience of women. Okay. And then they all have a comma after people. So we kind of ended the thought there. So people aren't owning anything. We're not, people is in possession. They're not a noun after that people is possessing, right? Because you're in the thought kind of at the comma. And then you start a side note, focusing mainly on the experiences of women, the poor, and the minority. So it's just sentence. It would proclaim the historical experience of California's people, comma. Then it goes off and explain what specifically, what those historical experiences are we talking about? Focusing mainly on this. So it goes sentence, comma, fragment. It goes a sentence, comma, like side note, extra information. But people isn't owning any noun. It's not the people's something. So we're not going to put an apostrophe on people. We're not showing possession. So it has to be G. It would proclaim the historical experiences of California's peoples. I thought it would be California's people, though. Hmm. I wouldn't think it would be California's peoples. That's kind of unique. But it's not possession. You're not owning anything, so it has to be people's. Let me just check that answer. What's that, 22? Oh, we already said that was G, yeah. Or yeah, G, yeah. All right, that's kind of weird. California's peoples. Why not California's people? I guess when you say peoples, you want to distinguish different types of people. So the women as a people, the poor as a different people, the minorities as different people, although there's some overlap in women, poor, and minorities. Nevertheless, okay, we know it's not apostrophe because it's not showing possession. Okay. She, next one, 23. So it's G. 23. She wants as many people as possible, especially young people, to help create the music. That seems like that works fine as is. She wanted, she is wanting, she has been wanting. So this is tense, verb tense. We see different verbs and they give us a different tense. What tense has it been taught? So back imagined, past tense. Um, for guidance, they interviewed, past tense. The subject they picked ranged, past tense. Uh, project was commissioned, past tense. She took, past tense. So this is written mostly in the past tense about what she's doing, right? So it would be she wanted, should be past tense B. All right. For guidance, they interview hundreds of city residents, historians, and social activists. Which of the following true statements, if added here, would provide the most effective transition into the information that follows in the paragraph? If, I thought students do that, but if we want the information that follows into the paragraph, we have to read what comes later. For guidance, they interview hundreds of city residents, historians, and social activists. The subjects they picked range from Dust Bowl refugees to civil rights activists, Olympic champions to labor organizers, land disputes to the growth of suburbia. Land disputes, they interview hundreds of city residents, students, and social activists. The subjects they picked, all the subjects, not necessarily the people that the subjects that they talked about. Yeah, but it seems like people, Dust Bowl refugees, people, civil rights activists, people, land champions, people, labor organizers, people, then land disputes to the growth of suburbia. That's not really people, but maybe that's an issue. They're talking about issues. Anyway, with the following true statements, if added here, would provide the most effective transition to the information that follows in the paragraph. The Social and Public Art Resource Center, which PACT and two other artists has founded, is based in Public Art Resource Center. No, they talked about interviewing hundreds of city residents during the interview, and they talked about the subjects. They didn't really talk about our art resource center. Bach and her team began by choosing subjects for the mural scenes. Could be. Bach's work can be seen all over Los Angeles. Is it no? Bach has taught people of all ages and backgrounds. No. Bach and her team began by choosing subjects for the mural scenes. For guidance, they interviewed hundreds of city residents, which Bach and two other artists founded his base in. Yeah, if out of here would provide the most effective transition to. Yeah, it looks like G is the best choice for what's coming later, right? Just want to check that out. Yeah, that's correct. Of the choices we had, I don't think it fit as well, but the other ones just didn't seem, the other choices didn't seem like they fit this paragraph. Okay, the subjects they picked range from. Now we know this is wrong. You can't, colon has to be a sentence on the left side. You're not going to end a sentence with from. Subjects they picked range from. That's not going to end the sentence. So we know colon doesn't work. I don't think any punctuation needed. You can just keep going. The subjects they picked range from. Um, I don't know of any comma rules that would go. So I'm going with B. No commas necessary. You can just continue with that flow of ideas or thoughts. 25 is B. Let's check that one. Yes. Okay. Um, 26, Dust Bowl refugees to civil rights activists, and also having, no, this is a list. So I like as is. F, Dust Bowl refugees to civil rights activists, comma, Olympic champions to labor organizers, comma, land disputes to growth of suburbia. They're giving you the list of you see how they listed the same way. Olympic champions to or labor organizers, this land disputes to the growth of suburbia is this to that, this to that. So refugees to civil rights activists, that's enough. You don't need, and also having, no, you don't need that. It's, yeah, these words are unnecessary. And remember, if you're thinking multiple choices could work, go with the shortest. F is the shortest and it works. And it also keeps the same pattern and form and sentence structure maintained throughout because the sentence structure is actually established afterwards. So that's why I tell people don't just stop at the underlying part and try to answer it. Read to the period because see, the sentence structure really comes, not even sentence structure, the fragment structure, because on the right, this colon is that, no, not a colon. But it's not a, because colon doesn't work. But anyway, the sentence structure that's coming afterwards lays out the way that the list should be structured or formatted and we want to maintain a parallel structure. So choice F. 27, which of the following alternatives in my person would not be accepted, or we didn't read. Next, area artists drew miniature sketches of the scenes on grids. Which one would not be acceptable? Scaled down, reduced size, teeny tiny, small scale. Next area artist drew small scale sketches, scaled down. I think teeny tiny wouldn't work because teeny tiny, um, it's figurative language. And you remember whenever you have these choices, you want to stay with literal, right? Even though teeny tiny, you understand what's being said, it's kind of slang. It's kind of like it's not in this passage was not, they didn't really use slang throughout. It's a formal written passage, right? Um, So I'm going to stick with the more formal choices, which would be scaled down. Next, area artists would scale down sketches of the scenes on grids. Definitely reduced size would be fit miniature. Small scale would scale down is kind of tricky too. But scale down does mean that they were smaller, but teeny tiny means smaller too, but it's just a slang. And typically these passages prefer, let me check that one, 27. 27 is C. That typically these passages prefer no slang. They usually prefer more formal language, more literal language. And this passage doesn't really use slang. After that, they created a blueprint of the mural, including bridge images that wove them together. This is testing pronouns, them, those, what it is, the scenes. Typically, when you see this, I can tell you it's probably J because them is pronoun, those are pronoun, it is a pronoun, the scenes names it. So a lot of times when you have pronoun answer choices and then a common noun, it's usually the common noun because the pronouns usually would be unclear or incorrect. So after that, they created a blueprint of the mural, including grid maps that wove them together. What would them be together? Would they be talking about images? A blueprint of the mural, including bridge images that wove, well, them wouldn't work. Only them, it couldn't be blueprint because blueprint is not plural. So them would match blueprint. So they couldn't wove the blueprint together. Well, the mural, you get it? You couldn't, them couldn't refer to blueprint or mural. It could refer to images, but that wouldn't make sense. But when we say the scenes, it's very clear. After that, they created a blueprint of the mural, including bridge images that wove the scenes together. Clear, no problem. The other ones, they're unclear pronoun references. Them, those, what it is, no. So we need to comment now. A huge grid was traced onto a smooth and sealed section of the channel wall, and the blueprint sketches were outlined onto it. The drawings were then painted over numerous summers by Los Angeles teens and groups recruited with the help of outreach organizations. If the writer were to delete the phrase "in groups recruited with the help of outreach organizations," From the preceding sentence, the paragraph would primarily lose. Okay. So what's the sentence? In groups recruited with the help of outreach organizations. All right, so the drawings were then painted over numerous summers by Los Angeles teens in groups. By Los Angeles in groups recruited with the help of outreach organizations. What is that saying? Is that information about how the teen painters were brought together to paint the mural? And groups recruited, yeah, they were recruited with the help of outreach organizations. That is true. That's how they were brought together. That's possibly A. B, is that part an indication that leaders of several outreach organizations help teens paint the mural? No, we don't know if that doesn't tell us that the leaders helped them paint it. In fact, if we technically say it, it says the drawings were then painted by Los Angeles teens, not necessarily the leaders who of the outreach organizations. The leaders of the outreach organizations might have simply just brought them together. Doesn't mean they help them paint it. What about C, an explanation of what the teen painters liked about working? No, that doesn't tell us likes or dislikes. They just tell us that they were recruited with the help of outreach organizations. We don't know anything about the team's likes or dislikes from that part. And nothing at all, since the phrase repeats a fact stated early in the paragraph. Does it say early in this paragraph that these teams were recruited with the help of outreach organizations? Let's check the paragraph. Next, area artists choose some schedules. After that, they created a blueprint of the area artists. That they created a blueprint of the mural, including grids and roll them together. Noticing you have a huge grid of space onto it. And then blueprints go down to the drawings were then painted. Oh yeah, no, it doesn't tell us that these groups were recruited with the help of outreach organizations early in the paragraph, so it's got to be A. All right, and then 30, given that all the choices are true, so D is wrong, that's what I was saying. Given that all the choices are true, which one best concludes the essay? By clearly linking the essay's conclusion to an image in the essay's opening paragraph. In 1983, the mural was finally finished. Dozens of professional artists, over 400 teens, and thousands of other community members had contributed to the Great Wall of Los Angeles, a celebration of the many voices of the city, which now, several years later, needs some repair. Just one work of art in the city, and each scene was painted in stages, starting with a magenta undercoat. And we want to conclude the essay by clearly linking the essay's conclusion to an image in the essay's opening paragraph. I think it was celebration of the many voices of the city because they interviewed these people and they painted people. So I think it's going to be F. But let's look at the opening paragraph. Let's see some imagery. Let's see if they talk about people. Judith Baca believes a mural can tell a story and that a large mural gives its creator an amplified voice. Beginning in 1976, Baca led the creation of what is likely the longest mural in the Great Wall of Los Angeles. I don't see an image. A mirror can tell a story that in the large mirror can create an amplified voice. Largest mirror in Los Angeles. And we want to say which one best concludes the essay by clearly linking the essay's conclusion to an image in the essay's opening paragraph, which now several years later needs some repair, just one work of art in the city. The signature doesn't realize over 400 teens and thousands of other community members that contributed to the Great Wall of Los Angeles. And each scene was painted in stages, starting with a magenta. See, magenta undercoat. Each scene was painted with stages. That is kind of, yeah, I'm going to go with celebration of many voices in the city. I don't like the specificity of the magenta undercoat. I don't think it connects to the whole thing. But let's check out 130. Yeah, 30 is A. Yeah, that's what I was thinking myself. 30, or F, sorry. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take a break and I'll finish this with a part two. Hopefully this is helpful to you. And yeah, we'll have a part two to English. Thank you.